Alright, I'm going to do a full tropical update here. I'm going to start out with the current conditions we got going on down here. Starting to see a little bit of curvature there, indicating a area of low pressure possibly developing. You can see some of that curvature up here, even on some bands out this way. It almost looks like an area of low pressure is trying to form in this area, which everything right now is saying that it's down in this area. So that would cause a little bit of changes, and I do believe that the tracks are going to pass just to the north of Cuba here. Most of the tracks right now are bringing it right across and even underneath of Cuba, and that makes a big difference in when it can develop and how much it can intensify in the long run. See, shit, I hate this. The water vapor imagery around here. Still got a little bit of dry air out ahead of it. Not looking too bad though. We got a little pocket of dry air right there, but nothing that's really going to get sucked right into the center as it tries to develop. So dry air doesn't appear to be much of an issue right now. Got some back out to the west, but that's not going to entrain. So dry air does not appear to be an issue when it comes to intensification with this thing right now. And again, on this imagery you can kind of see that curvature just a little bit starting. Nothing really spinning yet that you can see, but definitely starting to look more like something that could turn into a tropical cyclone. And as the sun set, actually kind of does look like we got a little tiny bit of a spin going on up here in this area. Could just be a trick of the satellite just looking like that, but because we're not really expecting, or the National Hurricane Center is not expecting this thing to develop for another couple of days. We're looking at Saturday, late Saturday, before we see this thing start to ramp up, based on most of the current models and conditions that we're looking at. If we go back over here now, we're going to take a look at the latest, not on Carlota, that's in the Pacific. We don't care about that very much. Just got in the new GFS ensemble, which appears to have shifted to the south and east a little bit, where these models are concentrated, coming mostly in the Tampa area and across central Florida. But we still got a few of these ones that want to do this meander and loop back, and we've got a couple that take it up toward the Panhandle, which is another option, and we'll get into that a little bit more when I get back to the hurricane models. And how do I get back out of this? I don't like that it does that, but I don't have much choice. And we have the Canadian model here. This is its ensembles. Earlier today, all of this was in the western part of the Panhandle, so definitely a significant easterly shift with that model as well, bringing a lot of them across western central Florida. But all of these showing a pretty weak storm. The only ones that show any intensification are the ones going into the Panhandle, but these are global models, and these are not necessarily the best guidance for intensity on a tropical cyclone. I don't believe this graphic's been updated. It does say that it's the 18Z run, but I haven't seen any changes. I think these values are going to go up just a little bit. I would expect a Cat 1 or Cat 2 hurricane if it does make it up to the northern part of the Gulf Coast on Florida. Everything is perfectly set up for that. Surface observations in the area, nothing really showing anything crazy circulation wise or wind wise there. Hard to determine, because there's not a lot of weather stations in the area where it's located. But I do like where they have placed this low now up here instead of down in this area, and that should continue to move. Like I said, I believe this is going to pass to the north of Cuba. Not that curve there, but it's pretty much going to ride the coast of Cuba. A lot of the models right now are showing it going right through Cuba, and that would prevent development. Whoa, where did that come from? So that's what we got there on the surface synopsis. This graphic is definitely not updated. These are the same models from earlier today, and looking at the latest hurricane models that have been coming out, they have also shifted to the east, but not quite as far east as our global models like GFS and Euro have been over the past couple of runs. Let's go over and take a look at those hurricane models, and I haven't even seen this one all the way through yet. I'm not sure if it's even done running. We got 111 hours out. Let's see what we can see. I'm not really worried about the area down here, but then see it again, keeping it to the south of Cuba, riding the northern Cuba border, and then it takes off of Cuba and goes kind of around Key West, starts to get better organized, but doesn't really deepen much. This is the H-Wharf model. This is a fairly good hurricane model, and now it starts to deepen as it lines up with about, what's that, Fort Myers, this area over here on Florida. That's about hurricane status right there, and that would probably be Cat 2, maybe low end Cat 3 at landfall there, 977, and again that is about where Tallahassee is, I believe. Earlier today the H-Wharf model was over here. Now we're seeing it over here. So definitely getting a little bit of an easterly shift on that as well, even though it does still show it going into the Panhandle. So just to back that up a little bit and say it were to come into the Tampa area, as the GFS model is showing right now, we'd probably have a weak hurricane or tropical storm based on the structure and how this model is developing this thing. Let's go back up here and go beyond. See, the H-Wharf is kind of showing that stall. After it makes landfall, it goes up into South Georgia and just kind of sits there for a while. This goes out to Tuesday. That model run is almost finished. They only go out to 5 days on the hurricane models. Let's go to another hurricane model here. This one has completed running, and we got the full 120. Same deal there. It gets inland and it stalls over southwest Georgia and just sits there. Now we're going to back her up to down here. This one's keeping it a lot further west. You can't even see the Keys there. See that west coast of Florida, Tampa area over here. In line with Tampa, we're about 993, but Tampa's not feeling any of those effects with that being like that. And showing landfall in a very similar area, just a little to the west of the H-Wharf there. And a little bit weaker, category 2 probably. Let's look at another hurricane model here, and that one is, whoa, wow, that one, this is the first time I'm seeing this. This is a new run, and that one has shifted well to the east, coming into that Big Bend area now, well east of the H-Wharf model. We're coming in at 989, 990. That is a high-end Cat 1, low-end Cat 2 maybe, coming in right there, and then kind of goes up toward South Georgia and just kind of stalls out there, sitting over the state. So that stall is definitely being shown by these Hurricane models big time right now. And that could result in a lot of rain. Especially for anybody to the east of that center, because this thing's going to have, as we can see in these images here, most of them are showing most of the rain going to be on that side. Everything is going to be really wet over there, and with these tracks, like they're showing over here, they're showing over here, and this one's showing something more like that. So everything would be staying on this side of Florida and on the Georgia coast there, bringing in tons and tons and tons and tons of rain. Even though rainfall totals on the global models aren't that impressive right now, which we'll get to in a little bit, I think this could change as this thing evolves and gets better organized. Let's take a look at a couple more hurricane models here, then we'll move on to some more local stuff. This is HAFSB. I really don't know what the big difference is between these, except for, whoa, wow, that one stalls for a while right on the coastline. A little bit weaker as it comes up by Tampa, 1,000 millibars. And coming directly up, and then it begins to make that little bit of an easterly curve. This one looks to be to the west of Tallahassee just a little bit, but stalls right on the coastline, and then slowly starts to move off to the east. And wow, that stall is prominent in these hurricane models. All of them are showing it, just in a slightly different area. And we got one more hurricane model, I believe. No, this is HAFSB, that's it. We can go through the GFS, but that's the same as the global run. No, this computer got confused on that one. That's not going to work. I don't think it'll work if I show the Euro either through there. No. Where's that even at? Is that the Yucatan? I don't know what that is, but that is not where our area of low pressure is expected to be at that time. One more, not really a hurricane tracking model here, but I've got to show it because I like the idea of the track right now. And we see it kind of developing right down here, and it's going to pull it right across Cuba and then bring it up into Florida, something like that. And this is the North American mesoscale model. Again, not used for hurricanes really, but at this point I do like its idea on this. There's Dakota, right over the Keys. Stays to the north of Cuba, like I think that is gonna happen, and makes landfall about where, or maybe a little to the north, and kind of in the Tampa Bay area, and then pulls across the state and kind of does its little stall out up there near Jacksonville, which is on par with a lot of these other models. Amazingly, that stall is getting very prominent in these models, except for our globals. Let's pull up the GFS here. Let's get a little bit closer look here in the southeast. And I kind of like this track also. This is the 18Z. Comes in around Tampa. Tracks just about right over us here in Astor. And comes out near Jacksonville. But the GFS is not showing much of a stall in our area. Does show a major stall right there off in North Carolina. Then actually brings it inshore in North Carolina and dissipates it, which is a little weird. But earlier today, that GFS was doing the stall right here over Florida. Euro, we're going to look at the AI. This is still 12. I don't like showing the 8 AM models because they're outdated at this point. But pretty similar idea. Still just a little farther out west than the newer ones are. Taking it up there and doing very similar thing to GFS actually on this latest run, just a little bit to the north and east of the GFS. AC Fast should have, no, I can't see that on here. The only other global I want to do is Icon, as it's somewhat reputable model for hurricanes. Bringing it together very, very slow. Bringing it in as a tropical storm right up there in that Big Bend area. And then brings it up over South Georgia. Does a short little stall up there north of Jacksonville. And that's the end of that run, because this run only goes out 120. So it could be stalled out there for a while. This is out to Tuesday, August 6th. So anything else is worth looking at here? CMC is still, they're still on their 8 a.m. run also. We haven't gotten the new 18Z from them. But, no stall at all in the CMC, and it keeps it well inland. Very different track on that one. That could just be an off run, because they've been developing a stronger storm too, for the most part, and that one does not show that. So we're going to disregard that one for now, as it's old and it doesn't really line up with a lot of other models that we got going for us right now. Alright, so we've been through the hurricane models, we've been through our globals. Let's hit up this page, and I want to pull up our GFS, and these are wind gusts. Where are we at here? It doesn't show. I hate this one because it doesn't like to show the time. Sunday at 1 a.m. You can see that center is located just offshore over here. We're showing wind gusts of 45 mile an hour just offshore of southwest Florida. And advance that forward a little bit. Things start to intensify just a little bit, bringing 40-50 mile an hour winds across southwest central Florida, I guess that is, and eventually pulls them all the way up across central Florida. Just take that line off of there and go ahead and advance this. Through Orlando, 49-50 mile an hour wind gusts, and then it pulls up through Volusia County with 40-50 mile an hour wind gusts. This would be something very similar to what we got in Hurricane Nicole in the Volusia County, Lake County area, if this does end up being what happens. Pretty decent little storm. It would only be a tropical storm, but could still get some pretty good wind, because that track actually shows it going almost right over our area. Something like that, right up through there. And then it stalls out up there off of Jacksonville. At that point, the wind has really pulled away from us. We're just looking at some rain and stuff like that. So, and get that off of there. Get that off of there. I had Icon model, which is not showing that strong of a storm right now. We see over there some 60 mile an hour winds off the west coast of Florida. This one pulls it up into the Big Bend, getting some 70-75 mile an hour wind gusts. And same deal for our area here around Astor. It's bringing us 40-50 mile an hour wind gusts on that particular track for a pretty significant period of time, actually, as it pulls up across South Georgia there, and just to the north of Jacksonville, and then it clears us out. I think this might be the old run of the Icon, because it's going out too far. Yep, that's 12 Cs. That's a previous run. So one other thing we need to look at here is our accumulated total rainfall. I don't want to use this because this is an old run. We have the 18Z. Yeah, there's our 18Z run from the icon. I'm going to scroll down so we can see that legend there. Rainfall totals across central Florida as low as almost none here on the west or east coast, and southeast Florida as high as 10 to 12 inches here where the center track is. Let's zoom in on this area, our local area. 1 to, yeah, you can read that. 1 to 4 or 5 inches as you go a little further west toward the center. But what I want to show here is the GFS. That's our model that is bringing it pretty much right up over the middle of our area, something like that. Showing us 4 to 5 inches of rain across our area, and as you get away from that center it gets a little bit less. That's very believable. 4 to 5 inches of rain from a tropical storm is very believable and isn't insane. That's not going to cause any major floodings. Maybe some low-lying areas getting some pooling of water, ponding of water, whatever you want to call it. We zoom out on this GFS, and yeah, you see that center track sort of right up through there. A weird 8-inch total up there by Brunswick, Georgia. But that's what we got. I don't think JMA is going to show us anything. Oh yeah, look at that. That's just another model that's showing very similar for this area. I guess that center track is somewhere over here. So we're showing 2 to 3 inches in this area. Most of the models are showing 2 to 4 inches in our area, Volusia, Lake County area. And wind-wise, some models are showing almost nothing, and others are showing 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts. Not much sustained, because this is not going to be enough of a storm when it makes landfall on the west coast to really bring us anything major. I mean, it's not impossible, but right now nothing is showing that, so I wouldn't be worried too much about wind on this one. Though we could get some decent wind gusts, just like an afternoon thunderstorm at points, but I wouldn't be worried about much of anything on this one, honestly, on the east coast of Florida. If you're on the west coast, I would be ready for a pretty decent hurricane, because that is entirely possible. But as we get toward the center of the state and east, not as big of a deal as we get on that side of that line there. Don't expect major wind impacts, or could have a lot of rain, but I can't say that. So where'd that come from? Alright, do I have anything else to show right now? I didn't go to the National Hurricane Center. Oh yeah, I got one more thing I want to show. And they have upgraded the 2-day to 40% and 70% chance of development over the next 7 days. Wave is expected to emerge from tropical depression is likely to form this weekend over the Straits of Florida or eastern Gulf of Mexico near the Florida Peninsula. Nothing's changed really there. One other thing I want to show here. Oh wow, it's already loaded. Euro Ensemble trucks. This is still on the 12Z, but that's okay. I want to show how they come up. And this is just the ensembles. This is where it thinks that the area of low pressure could stay centered. And they kind of come up to Florida and just start to scatter about. That's showing that potential for that stall right after they reach Florida. Let's see, I haven't seen the run from the GFS yet tonight, the 18Z. Do we have that? Nope, this is still going to be the 12Z. We haven't gotten the 18Z out of them yet. But very similar scenario. They all come up to the Florida area and then just kind of disperse all over the place, showing that potential for that stall up here in North Florida. I'll look at the satellite here. Oh, this one shows lightning too. I don't like that. That's smoothed out. Water vapors. Let's look at the water vapor imagery on this one because the colors are better. Yeah, see, there's no dry air surrounding this thing at all. We don't see hardly any reds or oranges. So this thing is in some pretty good area. Got a shear tendency map. I don't remember what site that there it is right there. And you see wind shears in this area are very low. Water temperatures are very high. And storm potential is very high over here in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's about it. Expecting a tropical storm to develop here in the next day or two, or a day or three, and impact the Florida Peninsula or the Florida Panhandle somewhere, possibly in a fairly significant way. Things are going to change. Things are going to flip-flop back and forth like they always do with these models. 2 or 3 days we'll have an official forecast from the National Hurricane Center when this thing actually develops. But for now we're just looking at all these models and making our own assumptions. And one thing that's almost certain at this point is that we're going to have a rainy end of our weekend and start to next weekend here in East Central Florida, and could have a breezy one too if this thing does what the GFS and some other models have been starting to show this evening. But again, like I said, these things are going to keep jumping around, and we'll keep taking a look at them. And I think that's about it for tonight. I got a fairly deep dive into everything there. Pretty much all the information that I've been looking at to try to draw conclusions, but there's no, as always, there's no definitive conclusion until this thing is about ready to make landfall, and we're nowhere near that yet, since we do not even have a tropical cyclone yet, and won't for a day or two. So that's going to do it for now. We'll probably be doing another video tomorrow night, because I'm sure things aren't going to change enough to where we're not expecting impacts at all. So, talk to you again soon. Bye-bye. Howdy.